So once again, this is Baruch, and this is the cover of a book which I think is really, really important. It's Jewish Astrology and Cosmic Science, Torah, Talmud, and Zohar works on spiritual astrology. It's a tremendously moral book. It's just absolutely fantastic. This is a little bit more of what the front of it looks like. Buy this book. I got the one in, I have a couple of copies in paperback, but this one here is in hardcover. Really gives you a very good idea of the Jewish approach to astrology, what it is, and how it works. So over here, he's been talking about the difference between the eighth house, the eighth house, the concept that says that the eighth house fulfills itself 10 houses away in the fifth house. The eighth house is the house of sex, and the fifth house is the house of children. So he contrasted the Jewish view of how this works, how the eighth house works, versus the Gentile view, in which he calls it the East-West view, because in the Oriental world, maximizing sexual pleasure is just like the biggest thing. And in the Jewish world, the idea there's nothing wrong with sexual pleasure, but the ultimate idea is to build a family. It's a very different thing. And so he had mentioned how strongly, and I know he said this to me too, how strongly the Kabbalah is against homosexuality because it's strictly anti-family. It's only for the purpose of sexual pleasure. Let's go over here and he's going through some of the aspects of what it's like if you're Jewish and how that works in terms of sex. So the woman has to purify herself after menstruating. She has to go to the mikveh, which is the body of water. For Christians, it's very similar to, that's really where the concept of baptism came from, the dip in the holy water. This is something that Jewish women do every month, and undergo ritual cleansing. And there are laws regarding the proper time in the night to be together, that is, to live together, husband and wife. According to Kabbalah, as the Zohar talks about, the best time for intercourse is Shabbat after midnight. And if not then during the rest of the week after midnight, or Shabbat before midnight, or on the new moons, and so on and so forth. There are times that the Torah talks about, specific times that are the best for producing what we said before, a holy family, holy children. And there are times when it is not good to have sexual intercourse, and other times when it is even forbidden to be together. And there is advice about which positions to be in, which positions cause certain defects in the child, which positions are beneficial, and how the room has to be, which direction the bed is facing, different things like that, which position the bed has to be in, and all sorts of things. And the deepest secret of all is the intentions and thoughts of the parents at the time of procreation. In other words, it's like a stage where tremendous act of procreation is taking place, which has a tremendous impact in the life of the child. Don't think that children are born at random. Children are born from intentions and on who the child will be, and all these things together are hinted in the idea of the eighth house fulfilling itself in the fifth. And if you go backwards, so let's count the other way. So he says, let's go backwards. Let's go backwards. Where's backwards? Let's go to the fifth house. Here's the fifth house. The fifth house is called Leo. Let's go backwards. In other words, he says, let's count clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get to the eighth house. So the eighth house is 10, depending on how you count, is either into relationship with the fifth house, which is Leo, or Leo going counterclockwise in the spiritual sense will wind up in the eighth house in Scorpio. So how does that go together? So this is because all these things together are hinted at in the idea of the eighth house fulfilling itself in the fifth. And if you go backwards, that's where we're at right now. From the fifth to the eighth house, you see the cause is the effect. How's that? And that, in a mystical way, the children, which are the product, right, of the fifth house, give birth to the eighth house, now to death. So how is that? Don't just think about this for a second. He says, what? Eighth house is also, besides being sex, it's also the house of death. So it's a house of death and renewal. So it's possible to come back, and that's what goes on over there. You give birth to the eighth house, which is the house of death. This is because children bring their parents to the level of developing their new identity as parents. So in other words, he's saying that novelty or newness, it reminds me of a psychology book that I read it from Ronnie Lang at one time. So he talks about people, adults, or children. They're also parents, and they're also adults. This really goes along with Freudian thinking a lot, if you just a variation on the theme. So he said the level of developing in their new identity as parents, so that changes them. And stepping up one notch on the life cycle, it means they're older, they're somewhere else. I'll tell you a little something that I heard once from this Hungarian guy. He says, when you're young, you're like a dog with a bone. You're hungry and you're going after it. In your middle age, you're more like a mule. You're carrying a burden. You got to give tuition, the dental bills, so on and so forth. You're doing a pain, trying to pay. And when you're old, you're more like a monkey. You look like you used to be something, and you're almost like a person. That was a cute idea. These are different stages, though. They're talking about these three different stages. For example, you see some women who, to their own surprise, become completely devoted to the children once they have the children. Before that, they were business people or whatever. And if they created children who become holy people, then the parents should work on themselves, trying to become holy themselves to be holy people too. Because now they've inherited a new name. They're now not just man and woman, but now they're father and mother. It's a whole different aspect, he says. So he says this extra name and title. Let me see if I can get this right, this line up. Okay, because I think we're going to bring this up. It's just too high, too low. Get over here a little bit more. So now you have the title, the name, the title of a parent, a mother or a father. This extra name and title is to remind them that their whole name, father and mother, the world is now to raise the children. Once you become a parent, then your life is your children, raising your children. So in a certain way, when they have children, they, in a sense, are dying. That is, their old identities. This is what he means. See, I guess this is a shot, a simple meaning, what it means, death and renewal. Because the old dies, but the new comes out of it, which is part of the cycle of life at any rate. Their old identity dies and they become parents, and now they're no longer children anymore, or boys or girls. They're now parents. Now, let's say, bring this up. I'm going to bring this up higher because it's still a big problem for me to get it on the page. So he writes like this. In the Talmud, it is said that a person who is childless is like a dead person. He is not physically dead, but in a way he is because he has no continuation of himself or herself. So we can say that the fifth house expresses itself also in a way that not having children is like death. See how the fifth, no children, is like death, eighth house. And having children is a way of transcending death, because even though our bodies will wear out, we'll become monkeys in the end. So the fifth house gives birth to the eighth by giving you the transcendental ability to somehow bypass death through your kids. So everything has deeper levels, and if you are really start to pay attention to everything, I think you can come to understand a lot of different secrets and wisdoms. So let's go. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is Tikkun Elevator Kollel. And this is Shir number 2 on chapter 3 of the book Jewish Astrology. There it is, A Cosmic Science by Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg.